This is a FlexiMount garage shelving system. Please, please, please ask for help before lifting this thing. It's about 60 pounds. It comes in black or white. Inside the box, 8 brackets for the left and right sides, 8 wire grid shelves, Velcro ties to secure everything, and lag bolts with washers and anchors. This installation template shows you exactly where to drill. It even comes with a leveler you can attach. Not going to use it myself, but it is a nice touch. Alright, so first thing you're going to want to do is figure out what distance in which you want to kind of put the first hole. Why do I say the first hole? There are 3 holes here, and you're going to put the actual shelves on here. What does that mean? That means you should be measuring for somewhere around this first hole. I've already done that. One recommendation I have is if you're going to try to keep it as high as possible, take the container you're interested in storing up there and add another 10 inches to the height. For example, 27-gallon version, and you can see right here, height of 15.2 inches. So what I'd probably do to play it safe is kind of go 26 inches down from the ceiling to the first hole or so. It doesn't have to be perfect, but what you're really shooting for is to make sure that when you're putting things up and down, you can get a little bit of an angle when you're sliding it in. The other thing that it helps with is making sure that if you wanted to add some other things there that were slightly higher, you have a little bit of wiggle room. So take the height and add around 10 inches. The next thing you need to know is that this thing comes with 8 brackets. So you need to figure out where you're going to put these 8 brackets. And they're supposed to be distanced using this template. So you have 16, 18 and 24 inches. Unfortunately for my garage, on that side and on this side, it's inconsistent. It's not like 16 all the way through. In fact, there are some places that are narrower and wider. The other thing you're gonna notice that in my garage, in a lot of unfinished garages, you have these lines that come down. That's usually where you're gonna find the stud, but I do recommend using a stud finder and just double checking because you never know what's actually happening behind the scenes. You can get into a situation where you're just trying to go straight for the studs one after another, and some of them are either too narrow or too wide to either support the shelf or too far apart where like the shelf couldn't even hook. So what I've done for this second round to make it easier is I took the cardboard box that it came with, you see this? And then I cut it so that I have kind of like a guide. Check this out. This is the shelf that you're gonna be putting onto the racks. Obviously, you're gonna need one support on one side, one support on another. Too narrow, it starts doing this. Too far apart, it won't hook, right? So you could just come over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like it'll work, but I have a feeling it's gonna be too close. Instead, I did this. You don't have to do this. You could just use the bracket. I cut cardboard out. It's a little short of this side and a little short of this side. Why? Because it needs a hook. If it's outside of the perimeter, it's not going to hook. So I'm going to go ahead and pencil in where these things start and stop, just to make sure that between the different brackets, there's enough clearance to have one shelf go on one, and then the next one come into it. Because you can imagine a situation where you have 4 brackets up. Remember, 4 brackets are going to support 2 shelves. If they're too close to each other, you risk this. Right? You risk bumping into each other. You need to make sure that there's enough space for them to kind of be close to each other. That means that the brackets need to be far enough from each other that they don't force these to kind of like converge. I'm gonna take one end. This feels centered, so this is gonna be the first one. Just grabbing a pencil. If I had hung it there, would there be space for another one? This is the second one. This is, so here already, if you look at here, there's a stud here, and a stud here. If I had just blindly put in a stud here and a stud here, it would be too narrow with each other. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna skip this stud and I'm gonna put a stud here so it ends up here. So here, I'm just gonna put an X for now. I do not want a I do not want a bracket here. And then here, we're gonna do another one. There's gonna be one around here. And now we need to figure out if there's an 8th one here. Yeah, that'll work. Just mark it up here because there isn't a vertical line, so it's gonna be hard for me to see. So I'm gonna do it up there. Now, what we gotta do is actually, let's get the holes ready. Now, I am gonna use this, but not for a lot of the cool things that it came with. Like, it has the little green tool you use to make sure things are aligned. I'm not gonna use that. I am gonna use these 3 holes. I found that these holes are accurate. So once you know where one hole goes, just bring it down and then mark them. And then you're gonna kind of use a drill bit to pre-drill before you start screwing things in, right? We wanna do that. So I'm gonna show you which ones to use for that. We've already done this on the other side. I just want to copy it over here. So you could use a tool like this, right? You could use the one that they gave you, or you can use something better. Like a lot of people have this. What you do is you go over to where you've identified you want to mount to the studs, and you just make sure that every time you drill a hole, it's even. I've already have holes over there. I just need to copy the holes over here. So you're going to see how I do that. I do recommend getting a laser leveler for something like this. Let me show you how this works. It actually has a self-balancing tool, like self-leveler. I am a little afraid that the green laser might like mess up my cameras or something, but we'll cross that bridge. This laser level is one of those purchases where you wish you bought it way sooner. Since recording this video, I've used it on so many other projects. I just turn it on and let the leveler do the work. Line it up with the marks on the other side, and now every hole is at the exact same height. Quick pass with a pencil, and we are ready to drill. Now we know where the 8 brackets are going to go. The next thing we're going to do, we're not going to go straight into screwing things in. We're going to go ahead and get a drill bit, and we're going to go ahead and pre-drill some of these holes. Hey, really quickly, just so you don't get confused, you're going to see me using 2 products that look very similar, but they're actually different. This is a power drill. A lot of people just have a quote-unquote drill. It's probably this. This is what we're going to use with the drill bit to actually drill the holes in here. This is an impact drill. We're going to be using the impact drill later on to actually put the screws in. It needs to drive directly in. And I'll show you other tools you could use, but I highly recommend getting an impact drill. In fact, I have a more powerful one than this, but we're going to start off with this one just in case I could link to an older, cheaper model. Cool? Drill bits. And when I open it, we're gonna see if we have it here. Lo and behold, I think we do. On this one, yep, 316. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use this one. And all the pencil marks we marked earlier, I'm just gonna drill a hole in all of them. All right, let's get going. Pre-drilling makes a huge difference when you're driving lag bolts into studs. It also helps prevent splitting and keeps everything lined up. Now to start putting the brackets on. All right, so we're going to get these bolts and these washers, and we're going to connect the brackets this way. It does come with anchors. I'm not using anchors. If I can use studs, I'm going to use studs. Now for these lag screws, okay, what I'm going to use is this. I'm going to use this, okay? So just so you know how this is going to work, this is the 13 millimeter, okay? Right? Now, the worst thing you could do is actually use like a manual wrench. We don't want to do that. A better thing to do would be to use this ratchet. You could totally use this ratchet. It would work pretty well. The thing is, it's going to be super time intensive. So sometimes I use this for the finishing touches. Instead, what we're going to do, we're going to use an impact drill. We're going to take this. It comes with this, okay? We're just going to go ahead and Put it in, now it's locked in. Let's see if the non-extension version works fine.
It'll go by much more quickly once you've got the system figured out. Just make sure each one is level as you go. I have 2 tips. The first one is the most important. Wear ear protection. Driving the lag bolts is super loud, so you'll want to be careful. The second tip is to take your time. You don't have to one-shot each lag bolt. In fact, what I like to do is get all 3 bolts drilled in about 80% and then drive them one by one once I've confirmed I've given each one enough room.
I will note that what I've learned from the first time I did this is that these shelves are super forgiving. So if it looks like, oh no, some of these brackets are closer or further apart from each other, you're gonna see how it works out. We're gonna take the first shelf and we're gonna put it in the front. So you gotta start with the front first. And so if we go like this, like that, there, it locks in here, okay? Put it in. Now that this one is in, this one's locked here. So it'll come up here, but it won't come up here. And what we're gonna use is we're gonna use Velcro ties later on to actually tie them to this frame. The reason why we're not gonna do it yet is because we wanna do it all the way across and make sure that each one is giving room for the bracket next to it. Or I should say the shelf next to it. All right, let's go ahead and put the rest in.
And that's the whole thing. All 8 shelves locked in place. The forgiving design really saves you here. Even if your bracket spacing isn't perfect, these things still carry their weight.
All right, so we're gonna use these Velcro strips and we're gonna actually bring them over here. We're just gonna tie it through here, and this is what keeps it from flipping over. Here we go. That's it. Super simple. And then we're gonna do it on this side as well. Sucker's not going anywhere. Cool. We're just gonna keep doing this all the way down. All right, guys, hope this was helpful. We're done for today. I'll leave a link in the description for the FlexiMount wall shelves, the specific one I got, as well as links to other products that were useful during this installation. And again, none of this was sponsored. I purchased everything with my own money, but some of the links might be affiliate links that earn me a very small kickback. Hope this was helpful. Peace.